Many thanks there to Mauricio Pochettino. He seems to be quite open about the entire game, about how he acted towards the end. Do you think he'll get charged?
It depends what Mike Dean decides to do, whether he puts it in as a report. I think he was very sort of coy in what he said there. He didn't want to give too much away, because he probably doesn't want to give away what Mike Dean's actually said to him as well. So I think there's a little bit of respect. I think he also has to be careful that when he's shouting in the face of the referee, and the referee sort of goes back this week to when they all get together, the referees, and he sort of tells the story of what's come back from Pochettino. I think the referees, when they go to referee, and look at him in a different light then. So he's got to be very careful in the way he approaches it.
Yeah, I don't want to throw fuel on the fire, but I would say that, yes, there will be a charge heading in the direction of Mauricio Pochettino.
Consequences.
Yeah. Now, whether he's found guilty of anything in particular, we'll have to wait and see. But I personally thought that Pochettino was too close to Mike Dean, the referee. I thought he invaded his personal space. And it was slightly aggressive. And, in the world in which we live at the moment, in particular in the football world, they're trying to sanitise the game, clean the game up, and I think rightly so as well. And I think that he's overstepped the mark.
It just looked like Pochettino at one point was walking away.
Yeah.
And then Mike Dean said something, and it caused a reaction from Pochettino. Sure. It must have been bad enough that he felt he had to say something right there in front of the entire world, in front of all the cameras. Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed, but one of Pochettino's assistants had his hand or his arms around him. Yeah. Pochettino just shoved him aside. Yeah. He felt like he had to say something, and obviously the assistant knew it must have been something that would trigger him.
And that's the thing. I mean, there's no smoke without fire, is there? There's a reason he's reacted that way. So that's why I'm saying that. He obviously feels that Mike Dean said something, but he doesn't want to sort of throw him under the bus as well to make a bad comment. I'd be surprised if there is anything to come of it, because Mike Dean might actually think, I've said something that I shouldn't have said. So I might just leave that out of my report completely.
Did that happen a lot when you were playing? We don't know what referees are saying. It's not like rugby where refs are mic'd up and you can hear each and every single word. I think there was it David Ellery, and you could see what Tony Adams was saying to him back in about 1991 or 92.
Yeah.
And it wasn't particularly savoury, to say the least.
I think it depends on the referee, who it is, what type of personality they are. Mike Dean's a very big personality on the football pitch. Some like him, some don't. Some referees you knew you could have a good argument with on the pitch, and they quite respected it, and they just knew it was the heat of the moment. Other referees just don't want it. They just feel like they're in control of the whole stadium, and they want to be centre of attention. It just depends who the referee is that day.
What do you think a referee should be? Because they are the officials, the match officials. They are the ones to hold the game to a certain standard. They shouldn't really be the stars, should they? No,
they shouldn't, but then it depends on the flow of the game. It depends how it's going. I think a good referee will go unnoticed. I think that's always the way. Or he's the one who's in complete control of it. I never want to come away and say about a referee, he got that one wrong, he didn't call that one, he wasn't strict enough, he was too lenient. There's so many things that you can tick off about a referee, what he should and shouldn't be. There's not many games where you come away and go, well, there is a few, where you'll come away and say the referee was superb today.
What's your take on Mike Dean then? Because he tends to be quite elaborate in how he acts sometimes on the pitch, from pointing to the spot, from a goal being scored, etc.
Well, it's interesting that Mike Dean's refereed today, and a lot of people often say he gives Tottenham a lot of things when he's refereeing in the games that he takes for them. He can be it's his character coming out on the football pitch. I've got no problem with the way he is. No, the only thing I don't like is sort of sometimes when he sends a player off or he gives a card. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and he gave a red card to someone, he went, off you get. And there's no need for that comment. It's just, listen, you've got to go. It's the letter of the law. I think there's sometimes it's that fine balance, isn't it, Gary?
Yeah, he's animated, isn't he, as a referee? A bit theatrical at times, but you need characters in the game, and why shouldn't a referee show his own character and passion? For me, they have the impossible job. They truly do. And even when VAR comes in and it's up and working perfectly, it's still a very, very difficult job they have. And so if Mike Dean made mistakes today, got decisions wrong, they were genuine mistakes, and I think without even looking through that game again, we could pick out mistakes that every single player made, okay? And we could also argue that tactically as well, Spurs could have done something differently and they would have won the game or drawn the game. And actually, if Sean Dyche had done things differently, you know, they would have won more comfortably. So I think we have to accept the fact that, you know, part of the game is about mistakes. It's about errors.
Yeah, it's just that so often on shows like this around the world, players can be criticised for showboating, for doing a bit too much, for acting the fool sometimes. Whereas you see Mike Dean, I'm not saying he's doing all that, but he does tend to be more elaborate, almost like he's showboating himself.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I don't pay a great deal of attention to the referees. I don't think I could name you 3 Premier League referees. I really don't. Yeah, I've got Mike Dean because actually he's just refereed that game. Because they are not the important part of the game for me. But arguably they are the most important because without a referee you can't have a game. You can play a game with only 8 players. You know, you have 3 sent off. You can play. You can still. If we don't have a referee, the game's finished.
What's your thoughts on the referee when he makes a bad decision, coming out into the press and having to explain his decision?
Well, I personally think it would be better if we had a format or a platform where after games, or at some stage after games, the officials, the referee, is able to explain certain things. The problem is, you know, unless he is a genius with words, people will twist his words.
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's almost like we'd have to show the footage and he explains it.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of them situations where we talk about a ref. He never has the opportunity to defend himself, and it's the most difficult position on the pitch. It is really tough to do what they do, to get round, to see every major incident and call it correctly is so difficult. And I often think it would be a good thing for them to explain themselves, but then...
Could it not be a prepared statement? If you're saying if you're worried about their words, they could sit down with, is it the PGMOL? Is that what they call it again? They could prepare a statement with the referee to have someone to help them to elaborate on paper at least?
Yeah, possibly. Or they have a review and it comes out a couple of days later, doesn't it? I just think that they're so sort of wrapped up in cotton wool and they're so protected, whereas I think it'd help them with the crowd, with the players, to have a relationship, to understand why they give certain things. Every season, before the start of the season, a referee will come into the club, he'll state out the new rules that have come in, any changes that might have happened, go over the new yellow card rules, if you like, and they'll have a video and they'll show what's what, and we'll discuss it with the referee to see where they're at. And I think sometimes it's a good thing to have because they see things from a player's perspective, but we also see it from a referee's perspective.
I want to just play devil's advocate here. Now, we've talked about the decision. He has a split second to make the decision. There is no VAR or anything, so it's either corner or it's a goal kick. But if you add accountability to a referee, public accountability where he has to release a statement, could that not also affect his decision-making on the pitch?
Yeah, possibly.
So it could also have a negative effect.
It can, but then... he also has to... It might sharpen his awareness on the pitch and realise that he's under scrutiny. I know he will be to a certain degree anyway, and he'll understand that he's on camera and he's round the world and people are watching. But I think as well, his linesmen or his assistant referees, as they're called these days, they need to step up the game as well. And it's a very difficult job for them to... because he could have helped him out on that occasion, couldn't he?
Well... yeah, possibly is the answer. But again, going back to, you know, was it a Burnley corner or should it have been a Spurs
just for this
free
scenario,
kick?
just for this, yeah,
for this one. I don't believe that where either official was positioned, they could have seen exactly what we saw on the camera.
But they're never going to come out and say that, at least not now. They're never going to release a statement to say to the general public, to footballing fans, the reason it was a corner, although in hindsight perhaps it shouldn't have been, was because our view was blocked. We don't get that.
No. So quite often your view is blocked, but the ball's gone over the goal line. The referee has to, in order for the game to continue, the referee has to make a decision as to whether it's a corner or a goal kick. So he has to go one way or the other. So it's a judgment. basically. It's a judgment based on their years of experience, their understanding of the game, and sometimes you get those judgments exactly right, and sometimes you don't. I believe the officials got that wrong today. It should have been a goal kick to Spurs.
Before I move on, yes or no, should there be more accountability for referees to explain their decisions? Now, you obviously said yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so, especially major incidents, red cards and sort of incidents. Well, not so much like that one, because, I mean, it wasn't a massive, I mean, I know they scored off the goal, but off the corner, but it wasn't like they were going down to 10 men or it was a major incident. But I do think that they do need to come out and speak.
Yeah, I think it would be good to hear more information from the officials as to how they saw the situation.
Perfect. Okay.